Chapter 8, Revelation. Where are we, Jimmy? What's happening to us? Leanne asked, looking wearily around. I really hope you have some explanation for all this, she snapped at Jimmy. I've just about had it with you and this sphere of yours. Suddenly Leanne heard a strange voice from behind her. Please, don't be worried, Leanne. The four of you are experiencing the effects of a cloaking shield. She turned and saw an image of a strange boy. At least he looked like a boy, but also a man. And he had the deepest brown eyes she had ever seen. Excuse me, do I know you? She asked skeptically. And how do you know my name? Jimmy sighed, took a deep breath, and turned to face the others. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Reevan, the image of the original owner of the sphere. Jimmy explained, while the others just stared at him with their mouths hanging open. I first saw him yesterday while we were visiting the VLA. Are you real? Seth asked. No, not exactly. I am not a real person in the way that you know. I am a projection of the image of Reevan. Projected from where? Bobby asked. From within the sphere, Reevan explained. I choose to appear before you in this form in order to make it easier for us to communicate, he said. Where did you come from? Are you from Earth? How did you get here? Leanne asked. I was created on a planet several light years from here, therefore, no, I am not from Earth. Reevan, the image of the one I resemble, was a scientist from that planet who was studying Earth many years ago when his ship was struck by lightning during a thunderstorm. It was damaged and crashed. He gave this sphere to your great-grandfather. The sphere contains important information about Earth, which was vital to the completion of our mission. Where are we? Jimmy asked. You are, in the same place you were before. Then, why can't we see the river or the sky anymore? Seth asked. I am projecting a cloaking shield around you, in order that you may hear and see me more clearly. This shield blocks light and sound from entering as well as leaving. You are in no danger. This, he motioned to the shield around them, is just one of the many things I am capable of doing. He emphasized. Jimmy was intrigued. What else can you do? He asked enthusiastically. Many things. I can collect and store information from a variety of sources, electronic as well as thoughts and memories. I am constantly monitoring many forms of communication, such as your radio and television broadcast, even the cell phone you have in your pocket. Was that you that caused my grandpa JJ's radio to act strange this morning? Jimmy asked. Yes, Jimmy, it was me. I sensed the thoughts and memories of those events of so many years ago from your great-grandfather, and then combined them with information from radio and television broadcasts stored in my memory. Reevan explained. Like this, suddenly the darkness that had surrounded them earlier had vanished to be replaced with scenes from various historical events of the last decade. The four of them watched in awe. What you are seeing are projected images of events that I have recorded from Earth's past history. As the four of them looked around, they could see and hear televised events from the past, projected as if they were sitting in one of those huge theaters where you're completely surrounded by the images. I have many more such scenes recorded in my memory. Reevan added as the images suddenly ceased and were replaced with darkness once again. So, you are like a personal computer? Seth asked. Yes, I suppose that would be a good analogy. You said you can monitor television and radio broadcasts? Jimmy asked. Yes, as well as many other forms of communication. Reevan explained. Can you send transmissions as well? Jimmy asked. Yes, I can. I can send as well receive transmissions in a wide variety of frequencies. In fact, I am currently monitoring an incoming transmission to your cell phone, Bobby. Reevan motioned towards Bobby's backpack. Just then they heard the cell phone ringing in Bobby's backpack. As quickly as the image of Reevan had appeared, the image suddenly disappeared once more. They blinked their eyes as once again they saw the river, brightness of the day, the blue sky above and the city of Socorro to the west. Bobby reached nervously into the side pocket of her backpack and pulled out her mom's cell phone. She flipped it open and answered it. Hello, said Bobby. Bobby, it's Mom, are you kids okay? Is everybody having fun? Marlene asked. Bobby hesitated a second. Yeah, sure Mom, we're having a great time, she replied apprehensively. After all, how would she ever begin to explain all that had just happened? She thought. Good, well, Dad and I have decided to have lunch a little earlier than we had talked about with you this morning. He wants to take you kids and Grandpa JJ all fishing later down at the lake this afternoon. You kids finish up whatever you're doing. Dad is coming down there with the truck to pick you up and bring you back to the house. Okay? Marlene asked. Okay. Bobby said. Good, he should be there in a few minutes. Love you sweetheart, bye. Bye Mom, Bobby said as she heard her mom hang up the line. Then she closed up her phone and stared at the others. Bobby breathed in a deep sigh and rolled her eyes. My dad's on his way to pick us up, she said. Agents Owens and Pacheco sat in their car keeping an eye on the Thompson house from down the street. Their orders, along with dozens of other agents who had been assigned to this investigation, were to contact all the people on the priority list who visited the array the day before, and then observe and report any suspicious activity. As far as they were concerned, this was going to be just another dead end. How long are we supposed to sit here and watch these guys? Owens asked. They sure don't look like any terrorist group that I've ever seen. I wish I knew why we're out here. Have you heard any news about what's going on? Not a word. I heard some rumors, but that's about all. What rumors? Asked Owens. Well, I heard from a friend of mine that there was some sort of disturbance yesterday up at the VLA site that really shook up the folks over at the NSA, NASA, and Department of Homeland Security. No kidding, that place is just up the road from here, isn't it? Yep, it's about 50 miles west of here. It's one of those large radio telescopes they use to study deep space, Pacheco explained. Can't see how that would be much of a terrorist target, said Owens. Me neither. Pacheco agreed. The two men watched the house in silence for several minutes. I say we give it an hour, if nothing turns up here we move on, Pacheco continued. Besides, I'm starting to get hungry and could use another cup of coffee. Pacheco finished the last sip of coffee he had bought earlier. When he looked up again, he saw two men hurriedly leaving the Thompson house in a large pickup truck. Hey Pacheco, look. Yeah, I see, said Pacheco. He started up the engine. Let's tail them and see what's going on. Will someone please tell me what just happened? Am I the only one freaking out about this sphere? Asked Leanne, pointing up at the sphere. She looked at her brother Jimmy, who was still staring at the sphere, which was still silently floating up in the air between them. Jimmy? Hello, can you hear me? Asked Leanne, as she waved her hands in front of Jimmy's face. Shouldn't we tell our folks about this? Bobby asked. I don't know, Bobby, do you think anyone going to believe us if we did? Said Seth. Seth turned and looked at the sphere, scrutinizing its appearance carefully. Hello. Mr. Reevan, are you in there? He shouted. No answer came. Jimmy reached up on his toes and carefully grabbed onto the sphere and placed it back into his backpack. Coughing slightly, he continued. We have to keep this to ourselves for a while, you guys. Can the rest of you keep this a secret, at least for a little while? Jimmy asked, looking at each of the others. What for Jimmy, this is just too incredible, exclaimed Seth excitedly. Because people will think we're crazy, Jimmy pleaded. And because, he paused and looked at the others. I just don't think we just can trust others with this kind of power, he continued. You guys have to promise me, he pleaded, waiting for a response. Finally, after looking at each other for a few moments, Seth, Bobby, and Leanne all nodded their heads in agreement. The four of them collected their backpacks, returned to their bikes and rode back to the main road away from the river. Seth was the first to see his dad's pickup coming in the distance. Hey you guys, I see them, he hollered. They all pedaled faster to catch up. As the pickup approached, they could see Alex and Uncle Rodney waving to them from inside the truck. Hey kids, everything okay? asked Uncle Rodney, stopping the truck and getting out of the cab. Let's get those bikes in the back. Marlene's got lunch ready for you kids back at the house. After we eat, we're all going out to lake this afternoon to go fishing, Rodney added. He was expecting some excitement from the kids, but only got a subdued reaction from the four of them. That's real strange, he thought. After they finished putting all the bikes in the back of the pickup, Rodney closed the tailgate and climbed back into the cab of the truck. So, how many crawdads did you kids catch? Rodney asked as he turned the truck around to go back to the house. The kids all looked at each other apprehensively. Seth spoke first. We only saw a few crawdads today, Dad. I think the rest were all hiding from us, Seth suggested, laughing slightly to lighten the mood. The conversation continued for a few minutes as Rodney shared with the kids his experience in the finer points of crawdad fishing. Alex had been trying to listen to the conversation as Rodney and the kids were talking, but as they continued up the road back to town, they passed a car which was parked on the side of the road with two men sitting inside. Alex turned his head as they passed to get a better look at the two men. Did you see that, Rod? What, Alex? That car we just passed, Alex explained. There were two guys sitting in the car that looked just like those two FBI agents that came to the door of the house earlier. He said. No kidding. Rodney tried to catch a glimpse from his side mirror, but it was too late. Should I stop and go back? He asked. No, just keep driving. I'll keep an eye on them and see what happens. The four kids immediately stopped talking and looked at each other with baffled expressions. Did you say FBI, Dad? Asked Bobby inquisitively. Just what happened while we were at the river, she asked. Well, sweetheart, two FBI agents came by the house a few hours ago and were asking questions about our trip to the VLA yesterday. They wanted to know if we saw anything that looked unusual or noticed anyone acting, well, suspiciously. Stuff like that. Rodney continued. You kids didn't see anything unusual yesterday, did you? He asked. Seth, Bobby, and Leanne all turned and stared at Jimmy. Jimmy was beginning to feel very uncomfortable about right now. What? Asked Jimmy, in a hushed voice. If you don't tell them sooner or later, we will, Jimmy, Leanne whispered.
You've been listening to The Thompson Sphere by David E. Farmer, also now available on Amazon's Kindle. Hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more chapters coming soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.